let's not fall into an existential slump before we start the interview.
No, we got to work there naturally.
Exactly, you got to work exactly like gently end up there. Right, I'm gonna do my intro and we'll get going. So, hello, one and all, and welcome to Creative Spark, my YouTube show where I talk to cool people about the cool things that they are doing. With me today is someone who's not only behind the incredibly cool Companion Quest and a bunch of other cool D&D books, but he's also the man who can basically describe anything. Logan the Runesmith.
It's a good lead-in.
Thank you.
Yeah.
Thank you.
Hello, all people of the internet.
All of them. Every single person.
It's nice to see you all again.
If everyone on the internet tuned in, my YouTube channel would implode, I think.
That'd be a little horrifying.
It would be absolutely horrifying. The ordeal of being known by everyone would be way too much. Far too much. But yeah, how are you?
I'm doing all right. Not too bad. Working on a couple new things. Happy to wrap up the board game I've been working on for the last year. Trying to take it easy.
Yeah? How good are you at taking it easy?
Oh, horrible. Really bad. That's why I'm trying.
What do you do when you are trying to take it easy? What's your go-to to chill out?
Spend way too much time on video games, enjoy a drink in the afternoon, and think about all the things I'm not getting done.
You've got to work in time to think about what you're not getting done, otherwise you're not productive. It's very important.
Exactly, yeah.
Yeah, no, I get it. I am a freelancer, and obviously I do YouTube, and then aforementioned children as well. So anytime I sit down to do anything, I'm like,
what's going to happen next? Yeah.
It's great. So the first question is obviously a really important one. It's related to one of your most recent videos, which is what Fortnite skin would you be?
Ooh. I actually got to brush up. Yeah, let me. That's an interesting question to jump on me.
The rest of them will be normal.
I really should have taken like a little quiz or something. Let's go Darth Jar Jar Binks.
Yep, that makes sense. Probably.
Yeah, big fan of that one.
Do you play Fortnite?
I am currently on an undefeated streak of 5 games that I played like 3 years ago.
And you retired, successful, obviously.
I retired. Yeah. My season's done.
That's fair. How's it been since the season? I'm committing too much to this bit. We should ask actual questions.
Oh shoot, I forgot they had Adventure Time characters. It's one of my favorite shows.
Oh, Adventure Time's as well, yeah. Oh, Adventure Time's great. I'm perpetually umming and ahhing about what age my kids need to be to watch it, because it's not
probably
really
like 7 to 8. It gets pretty dark.
Yeah.
And then it's definitely worth revisiting to
double
sort
check,
of reanalyze some of the themes.
Yeah, 100%. It's an excellent show. Anyway, cast your mind back, if you would not mind doing so. Before you had a YouTube channel, many decades ago, what inspired you to want to make a YouTube channel?
That's always a fun little story to tell. I was friends with Jacob for a long time. I met him in high school, and I think he had done like some really old like Lego stop motion videos and did a couple things with Zelda, which was a game that he played a lot growing up. And so he had this YouTube channel just kind of sitting there. And after we played D&D for the first time, he wanted to make, I think the first video he did was about rogues. And because we were like really, really close friends, we're still good friends. He invited me on to like do some of the acting for it, and from there I learned like he taught me a little bit about editing. I would throw out video script ideas, and it got to the point where he was like, you can do this on your own. Like I've got my video concepts that we'll work on, and then you can maybe try and kick it off on like by yourself. And at the time I had shifted from working at a hotel to working at my dad's hydraulic shop. And there was one employee that I worked closely with that heavily inspired me to not work there anymore. So I wrapped up my work there, and I just kind of jumped off. I think I had saved up through massive amounts of penny pitching, maybe like $2,000
Mm,
to ride on. So it was make or break for 2.5 months.
mm,
And because Jacob had such a good following, I think he was about to hit 100,000
mm.
when I left. And people really liked the content that I did, so I was able to go through it and eventually make a living out of it, which has been really awesome.
Was there a specific point at which you realized that it was going to be something that you could do rather than something you just wanted to do?
Uh, I mean, I was putting in a lot of work and I had a supportive team around me. Jacob was happy to help
Mm,
with skit filming, and we were doing that a lot together. And the first like week, I think it was, after I had moved a couple videos over to my channel, I got like 10,000 subscribers
wow.
from that. But yeah, that's such a rare boost, and I'm so grateful to have worked with Jacob to get kind of that following and get out in that spotlight because he's such an effective theater kid. His personality is like bombastic. He's always fun to watch.
Mm,
So I think from that jump, it felt like I could sort of ride that wave as high as I could, and um, I don't know. I guess I got lucky. It's never something where I sat down and I was like, "This is what I'm gonna do,"
mm.
because every day, you have to choose to do that, and that's true for every job. So every day I keep trying at it, and it's been working so far. I hope it does for a little while longer.
How did you land on the name Runesmith?
I think it when I was starting my channel, I made a poll in a Discord chat, and I actually forget the origin of the story, but I remember now. It was I'm a fan of the Elder Futhark alphabet. I think it looks really cool, and the history to it's really interesting. And I remember learning about it by playing Nancy Drew and the Curse of the Blackmore Manor,
Right.
where there's a little booklet that has them. And I played that with my mom. So at the time, I was like, "Oh yeah, let's build something off of like runes." So
Mm.
it was between like Runesmith, Rune Man, and a couple others that I forget leaning into that. But they liked Runesmith a little bit better. And then not long after I made my channel, some other actual verified publishing group made it like a Pathfinder class.
Mm.
So yeah, Runesmith has become a few other things, but I'm glad to have been one of the first to be curious about the success behind it. I don't know. I grabbed it, I guess. I don't know. That's fun.
It's very cool. Well, yes, because I feel like since that, obviously runes have become relevant in D&D and, like you say, other TTRPGs as
Yeah,
well.
it's also a very profoundly magic thing. I know Odin lost an eye to figure out their secrets.
Mm. Do you feel drawn to those like feats and classes and stuff when you're playing TTRPGs?
Not really. I like to do whimsical little characters that have like the most unpredictable abilities. And runes, I've never been a fan of like potion heavy games and
Yeah.
characters where you have expendables or stuff that you have to stack and then use that tiny window to get the rolls
Mm.
right and like hit correctly. And it seems like a lot of the runic classes lean into where are you allocating these things, and
Yeah.
then you have to stick with that. And I prefer the wizards and the druids.
Just vibes and wild magic and stuff.
Hmm.
Uh, with Jacob being integral to, not integral, but like a big part of your start, have you guys done many collaborations since then that you've kind of enjoyed doing or haven't been released or anything else like that?
Yeah, we worked a lot on Arcane Arcade, which is now his live D&D channel, and we kept doing skits up until the success of my second book that allowed me to move out of the central California, which is too hot, I think is the main thing. Too hot and too dry, and there's no water there.
Mm.
And I was born in Washington, and I was lived here till I was like 5 or 6, and then we moved down there. And I wanted to come back to where you can go fishing or go for a walk and not feel like you're just in this big valley where everything
Mm.
can see you.
It's very fair. Um, it's not often you hear about people moving away from California instead of moving into California. I feel like,
Yeah. And I've always felt like the Central Valley is sort of a a sand trap. Like you can leave, but you'll come back. And
Do you think you'll end up back there then?
I don't think so. I found a family up here pretty quickly. When I did move, I because the housing market is so impossible, I couldn't exactly pick somewhere that felt familiar
Mm,
or anywhere that was like nice and large city. So I just looked around the map, found a house that worked for me, and I came up here not knowing anyone. And now I know a lot of people here, and I'm happy with the friend group and the family that I have.
very cool. Uh, how do you go about choosing the topics for your videos, and has that changed over the course of your YouTube career?
Yeah, the little nod to the Basically series, that was the most successful series that I had, and that topic was fun to run with for as long as I did, because I was doing these video essays, and it got to a point where it felt like, oh, I'm basically just transcribing these into a lazy video format. How do I shift my approach to this? And I was like,
Mm.
well, what if I cared less? What if I just like acted like I did not care about the topic I was talking about and sort of made jokes at its expense? And I was able to do that running through all the most well-known monsters, but you run out and they're
Yeah,
not making more and they're really using flagships a lot. So you can only cover the Mind Flayer, the Beholder,
yeah.
orcs so many times before you run out of steam. So I've been doing a number of shifts recently, kind of trying to grab new topics, and one that seems to do well, and I kind of have fun
Yeah,
with, is combat simulations,
yeah.
where people just watch me play D&D by myself and get mad at rolls, and just be silly with characters. So I'm trying to lean into that more and see how well it works.
Are you enjoying like the more refreshed direction?
It's been a little tough to tackle. Sometimes it feels like a big shift that I have to make, and I have to get like set in my stride right away to where I have a solid backlog of this is what it looks like.
Mm,
Do people like it? Yes or no? And that's just a long walk, but I'm enjoying sitting down and making some of the video topics. Earlier today, it will probably come out eventually within the next month or so.
mm.
I was working on a video where I design a dungeon, and I sat for like 6 hours yesterday just trying to figure out what topic to run with, what to go with.
Mm.
And I don't know how I landed on it exactly, but I'm making a dungeon that is only 6 inches tall. And in order to get there, players have to eat like the shrinking fruit from
Yeah.
Adventure Time, more or less. And then they run through this little area and they find out its secrets and who made the dungeon, which is always the most important thing, and
Mm.
where they are now. And so that's been a lot of fun to work on and kind of brainstorm. Like, if a character is tiny, what dangers do they face, and how do
Yeah.
I lean that into stat blocks?
Kind of playing with the idea of like the Honey I Shrunk the Kids level of
A
fear
little
of
bit,
like
yeah.
suddenly an ant is the most terrifying thing you could come across.
Hmm.
That's very
Or
cool.
a goldfish can bite you and actually risk something.
Yeah, as opposed to just sort of suckling on the end of your finger.
Hmm.
Not sure I'm happy about using the word suckling in the context of a goldfish, but here we are. Um,
Whatever.
do you
I
have
back you
a
up.
do you have a long term plan for the channel, or are you just do you still feel like kind of finding your feet?
Uh, over time you lose your footing. You can only attack one concept for so long before you need to naturally make a shift, and being aware of that is kind of its own scary little thing. But I'm when it comes to long term, there's a lot of things that I want to do and a lot of people that I'm enjoying starting to work with. Some of
Mm,
the newer, more effective channels that are kind of blasting out of nowhere. It's been nice to get to know all the new faces in the D&D scene and work with them, kind of get inspired by them. And I recently got a second editor, so now I'm doing a bunch of scripts and handing them off to my little team. So it's slow growth, but it feels good. It's nice to be a part of a support group for a
mm.
bunch of people.
How strange was it going from being a one man operation to starting to like build a team around the channel?
I would say that experience mostly started when I worked with Ghostfire to do my first publishing
Mm,
set, because then, uh, since their business was just starting, it was like, okay, what roles do you want to fill what are you capable of doing? Like, how far does your skill set extend, and where it ends? Who do we need to kind of hire to
Mm.
fill out this whole thing? And they they had a knack for that, and it was nice to learn a lot from them. And now that I've got a couple editors and a few friends that I do podcasts with, some live games that I'm either a part of, a couple home games that I run, um, it's kind of hard to juggle time a little bit,
Mm. I
but
think,
I'm enjoying it.
well, that's good. I think that's the most important thing. Um, do you consider yourself more of a game designer or more of a YouTuber?
Uh, YouTube was never something that I would have chosen if it wasn't the most financially effective thing to do at the
Mm.
time that I jumped into it. So I really enjoy world building and game designing and running the little experiences and seeing people's reactions, and it's such a collaborative experience the way that I like to do it, and I find out the most joy in building a game for people as I'm running it
Mm.
and fleshing out worlds, making little characters, making dilemmas that everyone has to approach and see how they shine
Mm.
in how they tackle the game and beat it, so to
Yeah,
speak. It's always a lot of fun.
very cool. Let's shift away from YouTube then and talk more about
Okay.
your game design. I'm just muting Discord because we're doing it in
Mhm.
Discord. Brief look behind the curtain, and several chats are starting to ping for no reason, which is
I've got so many of
loud.
them muted on my end.
Yep, yep. I should have been prepared. It's my own fault. I never claimed to be professional. To be fair.
Neither do
Exactly. That's the best way, right? Then nobody can be upset when you're not.
I.
So when did you shimmy into game design?
I would have to look at the actual timestamp, but it was at the height of my channel.
Mm.
I did a run for Ghostfire with their Grim Hollow, kind of
Hmm.
the first release, either the player's handbook or like the DM's guide kind of thing, and the campaign guide rather. And I did really, really well with them. And I always had, like, for the longest time, this idea of a bestiary
Mm.
with a little gnome who could just create as many pets as possible in the game because I felt like that was something that was lacking in that game. And I love to see it in anything I've ever played. So I reached out to them and I was like, "Hey, how did you do this? Could you give me some pointers?" And because they were really happy with how their previous book had done.
Mm.
They were interested in exploring more concepts and kind of building out their approach to the business in the field. And not long after that, we all met in LA for about a week to
Mm.
hammer out everything that we were going to do with Stibbles. And that put a lot of work on my plate, but it was super exciting. So over the course of like 3, 4 months, I wrote my first book with the help of an incredibly talented editor and a massive art team. And from there, I just kept going as long as they let me.
Still just sort of plugging away on that same line, basically.
Yeah. They're working on their kind of pillar system, so they're leaning more into their four primary
Mm.
IPs. Um, and when your business is expanding and expanding, and you're working with the actual Wizards of the Coast, you get really busy. So currently, I'm working with my agent, who I have now. So the team's getting bigger, and we're working with a merch shop to eventually do some small paperback releases of like little one-shot adventures or player supplements to work on smaller stuff more frequently, and that's exciting. I'm getting started on that pretty soon.
Do you enjoy the game design stuff more than like being a YouTuber?
I think they both have their perks. The main thing that I like about being a YouTuber is the fact that it puts me on like a tiny little pedestal where I can approach other people who I think are incredibly competent, super fun to talk to and be around, and actually get a response.
Yeah.
So I think the friends that I've made from YouTube are a lot more, what's the word? Fulfilling
Mm.
than cracking away at some books and concepts. But I do enjoy that. I like to spend a lot of time on it.
Very cool. you've obviously just come off Companion Quest, which isn't a book
Mhm.
and is in fact a board
Yeah.
game. How was that?
That was a lot of fun. It was like the main thing of it was doing all the art briefs for the cards, building out the world, which is my favorite thing. And every week for over a year, just playtesting and playtesting and playtesting and shifting the nature of the game to such a massive extent that,
Mm.
like, even at the end where we are sending it off to shipping pretty soon, this last week we did another playtest, and Mark, who's the primary game designer, was like, "Hey, I made some changes." It's like, oh well, it's a new game now, and every single change that he makes to the game, it improves just a little bit more. So it's been fun to kind of help guide that process,
Mm.
and build out the lore and the nonsense world of the characters
Is that
slapped on top of his game.
That's really cool. Um, is that something you want to do again? Would you like to make another board game?
If I'm ever given the opportunity, I would absolutely love to help work on it in any facet. If it comes with just you know, world design or helping guide the nature of the game, or even just being a part of the blue sky, the initial concepts for
Yeah.
what the game shape would take. Uh, Ghostfire also briefly explored the potential for digital games or like phone games and stuff, and
Mm.
I have a couple concepts like that, and that's every kid's dream from the early 2000s is to work on a little video game, and that would be a lot of fun, but I don't have the money to
To do it on your
kickstart
own.
that.
Yeah.
Yeah.
Is that something you have considered, like putting towards Kickstarter?
Yeah, not so far that I've invested in any like
Mm.
assets or anything. It's just fun to think about and build some stuff in the background. Like a what if.
Is there an ideal kind of balance of all of the many things that you do going forwards?
Um, Balance is always a tough concept to me because the moment you think you have it, something changes.
Yep.
So kind of a fluidity to the approach and lending myself to the whims of other people and what everyone else is working on, what I'm capable of offering. That's kind of the balance that I approach stuff with. Um, but I think a good consistency of working on a video somewhere around every week, maybe missing a week a month,
Mm-hmm.
and spending the background time just working on building my own games or building out more creatures and concepts. I remember early in my career, I worked on Patreon a lot, and I offered up my ability to make homebrew content for people, and that was really fun
Mm.
to just build random tiny things and throw them out throughout the week.
Is that something you miss? Do you ever miss the lesser known version of Runesmith?
I would say to some degree, yeah. Because you sort of build up pressure and you get pushed into kind of a corner of what you're known for. So exploring feels scarier the
Mm.
bigger you are, I guess, because the higher you are, the further you can fall. And that's always the nice little precarity, if that's a word.
That's the void coming back again.
Oh yeah, there it
Um,
is.
uh, are there skills that you feel you have that you haven't had a chance to use professionally?
Mm, I was a professional dungeon master for a brief time, not like a full amount of time committed to it, but for Sunken Isles, actually, one of the books that I published, before I did it, I did a full playtest building out the setting and the idea by running an impromptu game where every week I would just build out like what's the next session, what's the
Mm.
next session. And when we were done with that, I could look back on the messy notes that I made and all the player actions and build out the world where I remember one of the players, they went to a church's bell tower and he took the tongue of the bell and used it as a bludgeon. So I think I made that a magic item in the actual book. Um, I think finding a way to DM or play a little bit more often and have that not be a time sink
Mm.
could be fun. And I think I'd like to dedicate a lot of time and passion to building more little worlds and running small campaigns. And we might get to do that in some live events, in some conventions soon. And
Mm.
I'm really excited for that.
Yeah, convention season is sprinting at us full speed
Hmm.
at the
Oh
moment.
God, yeah.
Uh, do you? How often do you manage to go to the cons yourself?
I tried to go to Gen Con and PAX every year. I think I missed PAX last year because we were just super, super busy. But yeah, just at least those two, and then maybe a Ren Fair occasionally. But
Mm.
the populations at Ren Fairs are so massive, you can't really get to them. It
Uh,
takes the whole day just to get through the door.
yes. I mean, the other person I know that I've talked to regarding Ren fairs and stuff is Joxy Whipper,
Mm,
who
mm.
gets mobbed constantly from what he said and can no longer even wear a cloak because his shoes are too recognizable. Uh,
So sad.
yeah, it's a bit. Do you feel odd that people recognize you at conventions and things like that? Do people recognize you? Because obviously you're more of you're like an animated YouTuber
Yeah,
almost,
I
right?
used to when I was more well known, I did some live action stuff, so people recognize me, and really remember fondly this one point where I was talking to someone at a convention that was like shoulder to shoulder, and a guy turned around and said that phrase of like, "I know that voice," and that was so sweet. People at conventions are really nice and they're really respectful, so I appreciate the community that I have, and I never resent when anyone does like, "Oh, I know that guy."
Mm.
It's nice to know the kind of people that like the stuff that I put out,
Uh,
and it's never so overwhelming because I'm not a massive channel.
you're a fairly big channel for the D&D
Yeah.
space.
Yeah, top 20 probably.
Is that odd?
I try not to think about it. YouTube's a huge environment, and there are other avenues that people take that are a lot more effective and recognizable than the one that I've chosen. So I'm happy to be in a niche space where I'm relatively well known. I feel like that's one of the best seats in a little office that you can have, and I'm
Mm.
super grateful for it.
Corner office in a small office building kind of thing.
Mhm. Yeah, yeah, exactly.
Um, how did you go about designing the animated version of you?
Uh, that's a good question. I don't remember the exact thought process behind making a little character with no face. I think because whenever I sit down in front of a camera and I'm alone and I try to read a script
Mm.
or riff off of myself, it just feels abysmal. And I could never understand why. So it feels better to not have the camera on, to not have to try and kind of visually perform.
Mm.
So I think it just felt like I was taking my face out of the equation. So I took a picture of my face and I did like a little line drawing over the face where I just didn't include the eyes or the olfactory senses.
Yeah.
And it just felt right.
Have you been enjoying the different avenues that offers you instead of being like a talking head, as a lot of YouTubers are?
Um, yeah, I like doing little animated scenes and throwing in this character that has either a range of power or gets killed in a video immediately. Like he, he is a character that gets his own strange level of freedom in the editing space, and I think that has been pretty fun to work with. It's also been really nice to have friends who are really competent artists and be like, "Hey, here's some money. Make me a runesmith."
Is Mini Runesmith still running around in Pointy Hat's YouTube channel?
I think they found a way to get him into a little furnace.
Oh,
So
okay.
I've still got mine, and I think I have a couple more in the hangar. But no,
Okay.
he's when he hat's free. He's not pulling out his proverbial hair.
Okay. If he had hair and wasn't a hat,
Exactly.
as we all know.
Not harassing his human familiar.
I always feel bad for Antonio. Like that hat's
Yeah,
it's a real monster of a master. But
a little bit of a slave driver,
yep.
but
Suffering from success, I
yeah,
guess.
yeah.
Um, do you get much chance to just play? You've obviously alluded to the fact that you're busy all the time. So
Yeah, I have a home game that I've been running for a long time. We're probably like 50 sessions in, and we've had players come in and out. Um, and then I've been doing, well, we've been putting off the last session for a game that I am in with Joe Cat for like 4 months, I
Mm,
think, because scheduling has been so tough. Um, and there was a campaign that I ran for some friends that was loosely One Piece inspired that I thought about recording,
mm,
but it felt more natural to just flow kind of with the players and run it for them. And that was 16 sessions.
mhm.
And that one wrapped up, and it does feel good to have more time in my schedule to get back to work a little bit,
Yeah.
feed my editors some scripts. And that one was with Brody Lehman, who's a One Piece TikToker and does a few other things, or Brody Lehman, and Deja 2, who's the armor rating guy,
Right.
and Antonio actually, and they got along really well. We still talk in the group chat. We try and schedule things, so it's nice to build out little friend groups every time you put together a session or a campaign.
Yeah. Uh, do you find the community to help offset the weird isolation that comes with YouTube?
I definitely think so. Um, there are some really helpful people in the space, and there are some incredibly personable people who you could just talk about literally
Mm,
anything with. And some of my people who got to know me through Jacob's channel, like Mario Sack and Fallen Monk D20, some of my closest friends that we try and like do a little podcast or
mm.
play some Helldivers as often as we can throughout the week. And I wouldn't have ever met these people if it weren't for the uh, the luck and the success and the avenue that I've gone down, and I'm again just super grateful for that. Love these people.
Very cool. Uh, is there anything in particular that you would like to plug?
Uh, I am currently working on my merch with Crown Shop, but I don't think that's anything that I can actually point anyone to just yet.
Mm.
So the Ghostfire shop, I worked on anything with the Eldermancy logo on it. So Stibble's Codex, Sunken Isles, Twisted Taverns, they're really good. My little channel, and I think that's kind of all I'm working on right now.
I love you list like 100 things there that are all incredibly complex and detailed. That's all I'm doing at the moment.
That's
It's
it.
just it's just those little things.
Just my little backlog I can plug.
Thank you so much for finding time for this. I know, well, you're clearly
Yeah,
incredibly busy, so I do appreciate it. We're going
thank
to
you for
wave at the
having
camera because that's what Pointy Hat did the first time we did it. And bye
me.
bye.
Bye.